Oh, I'm very satisfied with the IGF 2021. The government put a lot of effort into it, and I think we all worked hard, and also the community put a lot of effort into IGF 2021. We had, the COVID issues and problems, but I think it was all overcome to a certain extent. And we had a lot of discussion, and I think we did better the common understanding of internet, the issues, the problems, and also what we need to do for next year. For example, we had comments about youth involvement, capacity development. So those are key issues and key areas that we will be trying to focus on next year.
I'm very pleased to be here and share with you a few thoughts about this IGF. The Polish host has risen to the occasion really wonderfully, and the participation has also been very encouraging in spite of the recent difficulties, of course, in travel. And I think that this is good omen for the future as well, because in spite of the difficulties, there is a high level of interest in the Internet Governance Forum. As UN, we believe in it. We think it's a very important bottom-up, multi-stakeholder, diverse venue, and it does help us to have so many ideas bubbling, I should say, in this context.
Our work started a couple months ago. Our participants were divided in 8 working groups. They worked on the different fields of internet governance, and during their work they created points of action which are supposed to be youth postulates answering to the different challenges that young people observe in these 8 fields of internet governance, like universal access or climate change or digital education. And we really wanted those points of action to have practical dimension. So we're not only looking for solutions, but also for finding particular stakeholder groups who could actually help us as young people in introducing those solutions, who could help us in implementing them. So working groups did an amazing job. Like each of them created a set of points of action, which are, I think, very innovative. They are very, the people who work on them have really showed a broad knowledge of the topic. Also, they all have different backgrounds. So they brought perspective of lawyers, of engineers, of young activists. So I think the final outcomes are really amazing. We will publish them very soon so everybody could access them. We presented them during the Youth Summit yesterday, and we have already received a very positive feedback that people are interested in those ideas. So what is our goal for now is to continue this work and to publish those points of action, to deliver them as wide as possible.
The session was talking a lot about the balance and the necessity of regulation. All the regions all around the world are expecting to have a better regulation and not to harmfully regulated internet and data content and the use of internet. It was there was an example from the European region, but it should be followed by the other regions. We are not starting from scratch. Several studies are already running, and the other regions can take example of that, although European countries is already working on right now.
Hello, I'm Roberto Zambrana from La Paz, Bolivia. I am the local coordinator of our IGF in Bolivia that happened to be on November every year. We did our 4th IGF recently. I'm also working with the government for the last 10 years in charge of the e-government area in La Paz City Hall. And it is my 2nd year as a MAC member representing the technical community. We recently had a very nice session and we talked about regulations, particularly regulations to the big giants, what we call different companies that runs platforms, digital platforms, in which some of them are actually creating some disruptions in our local economies. Innovation is always good. It's fantastic to come up with really great ideas that actually provide better services for citizens, but sometimes these kind of companies create some disturbance in the local market. So it's important to provide a regulatory framework that at the same time it's really hard if we are divided as nations, if we don't follow good examples as the European when we want to regulate in a regional level. So that's one of the conclusions that I can have from the session. And in the following IGFs in the next years, it will be important to continue discussing this kind of topic, which is regulatory frameworks, but also to keep talking about some other aspects, such as universal access and meaningful connectivity, because as we all know, half of the population is still not connected. So we need to face this kind of situation and we need to solve it in the future. And hopefully, when we have the IGF in Russia, it will also be an excellent place to convene, to meet, and to discuss about all these great topics.
So it was really interesting. I was really very satisfied to hear the comments from the Deputy Prime Minister, even if he couldn't join us physically because of the obvious reason, but we've been very happy to have a video message with very important informations and also talking about the technologies we've been talking on the panel. And 4 of them are the most important from the perspective of the forum, and I think that the Deputy Prime Minister is sharing them as well, which is like infrastructure, access to the infrastructure, services provided by the administration or businesses, education and skills. This is a very important component, cybersecurity. And on the top of that, international cooperation and really working together if it comes to the digital strategies and development of a digital future.
I think that we should talk more about education and tools that teachers can use to show the internet to the youngest kids, because older kids know everything actually on their own, so they're not taught anything at school about the new side of internet. So I think we should talk more about the educational side of internet.
We had the very good fortune of having our 15th edition in Vladivostok, Russia. So we were very happy to have gone to the far east of Russia and looking forward to the 20th edition of the global IGF. I think many things that we're discussing right now is very important. Youth voices are extremely important. I think more and more young people who are digital natives are interested in how these policies that affect all the ecosystem and all the devices and all the platforms that they use in their daily life. They're more interested now to see what the rules, what the policies and the far repercussions of all these decisions are being made, that they are very interested to be part of it, not just passively, but also taking part actively in these discussions. And another thing that's very important, I think, that we'll look forward to talking about is the sustainability of the environment. So looking forward to the 20th edition, and I hope we have very good news then to share from now until then.
There are 1.1 billion young people around the world. From the age 15 to 24, which constitute 40% of the world population, is young people. So I believe including young people in the policy making, as well as in the implementation of the policies that are being made at the Internet Governance Forum, within it and outside it, that is really important. And that is something that I believe that the governments, as well as the civil society, must think of how to involve the young people in the policy making, which is really important.
I believe that we have many interesting topics that we should discuss at such events like IGF now and also in the future. But I think so that we also should consider more about the future, how the future of the internet will look like. I really think that we have a discussion about what is the Web 2.0, why we should regulate digital platforms and so on. But we also should take the consideration for the future of the internet like Web 3.0 and Web 4.0. For example, we see and believe that the future of internet will be based on the decentralization. And this is something that we have to bear in mind when we create our regulation like now. Then I believe that we should focus more on the DLT issues, tokenization of things, tokenization of virtual goods, even tokenization of people, because this is one emerging trend that brings many risks, but also opportunities to smaller companies, to smaller influencers. But it must be done to keep in mind that everything what we'll do now, it might be soon outdated. So we have to bear that internet is something that is constantly changing, and we should, as policymakers, try to regulate them and be one step behind and not a huge giant leap behind it.
I think that we should keep talking about artificial intelligence, especially, and ethical issues related to this field. Emerging technologies are part of the tracks that we cannot forget. And what I think is most important is that every track we will be discussing or talking about should be human rights based.
I think the most interesting topics for the 2025 IGF would be to increase the youth participation and to increase sessions about data protection, other topics interesting as artificial intelligence and metaverse.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Jasmine. I am from Costa Rica, and I would like to talk about human rights, specifically how include people with disability in that kind of initiative, because the people with disability have an excellent opportunity for have an excellent work if have technical areas. And I would like to talk about gender and how can improve the opportunities in your zone in Latin America. And I believe that artificial intelligence and human rights about security in your social network. Thank you.
So I think the most important issue that we need to attend is the future of the technology, principally because internet today is our principal way, but in the future the technology are changing. So we need to prepare of the social dynamic. So I think we need to think about the metaverse, about the restructuring the multi-stakeholder scheme and the internet governance in general. I think this is a priority area.
In my opinion, the most important thing that is all about this topic is, of course, cybersecurity, and that's because cyber attacks are probably the most common type of threats which can hurt us as a society right now, and that's because hackers' actions are hurting or threatening the whole world. I mean, right now in Europe, we are not as vulnerable to that as people in Russia, China, USA, because we are small countries, but still the effect